Where do we start from today's game? Because obviously a massive result for Manchester United, but it feels like a match that was defined by those decisions.
Well, looking at the table, 5 points down to Everton in ninth and 7 to Arsenal. It has brought everybody back into the mix. As for where we start, I could just go over a few things quickly. Chelsea 1-1 6 in the league. Manager having a beef with certain players, particularly the goalkeeper.
Yep, Willie started again.
Willie Caballero started again. We'll talk about the Kepa situation in a bit, but there's a reason he's not playing. And you might say, well, what difference does that make? Well, you know, it gives your defence a bit of confidence if you've got a better goalkeeper behind you. And Willie Caballero was way over to his left for the first goal. Chelsea can't score. Struggle to score in all their good play. And the English officiating with VAR is just an absolute, utter shambles. On top of that, you say, did Man United deserve to win? They deserved to win because they did win. And they got the points.
Should we go through them chronologically? Let's start with the Harry Maguire one. Yes. Maguire, after the game, said basically he could see Batshuayi was falling onto him, so he put his leg up to stop him falling on.
Yeah, right. Sounds like a guy who should have been sent off, given some story to make it sound a reasonable decision he made. The truth is, he kicked out, he caught Batshuayi in a painful position, and I don't understand the controversy because it's straightforward. Any normal human being, anybody who's ever done anything to do with football, should see that's a red card, and how it's not given is a joke.
Mike Riley, the head of the PGMOL in England, the referees, should fall on his sword off the back of this season alone. Anthony Taylor was the referee that refereed the game when Heung-min Son was sent off. He missed that one as well, but it was officiated by VAR. It was very similar. There was an upward motion. Off he went. Because there's a disparity in the VAR is the crux of the matter here. Because Anthony Taylor, and I've said it before, as the on-field official, the game should be refereed by the on-field official. He was, and I said to you during the game, he was where the incident happened 5 yards from the monitor. From the very thing that Mike Riley doesn't want the referees to go and look at because it's taken up too much time. He was 5 yards from the monitor. He could have popped across, and then we would have got a consistent decision between the kickouts. I mean, it is frightening, the stubbornness and ignorance of these officials in England.
Just a quick poll from the boys. Frank, red card for you on Harry Maguire?
Yes, of course. I have nothing to say more than what the guy said. You know, I've been a defender, and your ego works when in fact somebody pushes you and you get out, and the fans start to laugh at you, and you have a reaction. And that's exactly what Maguire did. He was upset, but because Batshuayi pushed him, and when he saw him, he kicked him. He stretched his leg, and it's a straight red card. And I will go a little bit further than Craig is going. Is the guy who watched the war don't understand football. He never played football. If he would have played football, he would have understood that it was a clear foul from Maguire. There's nothing
Don,
much
red
to
card?
add.
Oh, 100%. I think the lads are absolutely spot on. And there was a decision in the first half as well, which was a real bizarre one. When Willian got a yellow card, he took Bruno Fernandes on, dropped the shoulder, done a little step over, went to the byline, clear foul, and the referee gave Willian a yellow card for diving. And it was almost... And the boys are absolutely right. And Craig's absolutely spot on. That was the perfect chance for Anthony Taylor, who was a couple of yards away from the monitor, just to go and double-check, just for his own sanity, if you like, just to double-check the situation. It was a definite kick-out. Harry Maguire knew exactly what he was doing. And it was... I think it's clear to everyone. It was a clear red card.
What about the disallowed goal in the second half that we saw? Chelsea thought they made the breakthrough. Don, what do you think?
Oh, I thought again, you know, the guys are sitting there in VAR and you know, they're trying to judge a decision when it's fast and furious, but they've got all the angles of it, and it was very easy to spot. And I don't know what the solution is, because these are easy decisions. Sometimes I feel as though you should have an ex-pro, you know, in the VAR room, but it doesn't really make any sense what I'm saying. I'm contradicting myself, because the guys in VAR tonight would quite clearly see that Fred was the first one that pushed Azpilicueta. He then falls into Brandon Williams, and then everyone assumes that Brandon Williams has been fouled. But the first foul and the first push came from Fred.
Frank, do you agree?
I totally agree. I think the guy in the VAR was wearing the Manchester United shirt, you know, because if you don't want to see Maguire, you cannot avoid seeing what Fred did. Fred pushed Azpilicueta, who didn't have anything to do but pushing Williams. So it's a nonsense. Of course, Manchester United, as Craig said, because I'm a former Chelsea player, so people are going to say, you know, he wants to defend Chelsea. No, Manchester United did well. They were courageous. They did a good pressing on Chelsea, and I think they played very well that game. But the ref gave them the game. Oh, well, no, not the ref. The guy in the VAR. The ref didn't look at the monitor, but the guy in the VAR gave them the game.
Isn't this weird? Like, we're sat here, 4 guys all discussing the same incident, and it's rare where everybody agrees so wholeheartedly about it. Sometimes you could say, well, I can maybe see what the officials thought here, but on this occasion, and it's not anti-United bias or anything like that, it just seems a very bad day for the officials.
You have to accept it. VAR was brought in so that decisions that were wrong, that were made in such a snap decision, would be fixed. We get VAR, and somebody looking at a monitor still can't see it. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And this is what we're stuck with.
And we've seen a lot of people crying, VAR's ruining the game's gone. But this isn't VAR's fault.
No.
If you're showing an official what we've all seen, and he comes to that conclusion, as Stevie said, that's nothing to do with VAR, it's nothing to do with technology, it's to do with human interpretation.
This is a simple debate whether you're wearing a red shirt of Man United as a fan or a blue shirt of Chelsea. This is an impartial debate because it's so simplistic in the decisions. Now, when we were watching the Zouma goal, I think we all said, oh, there's a foul there, he's going to chop that off.
Yeah.
Because that's what it looked like. Yeah. Now, the reason technology's here is for people like us and people like the referee and people like the supporters at home, when they think they've seen something, as the technology goes back and goes, oh, hold on a minute, let's clarify there is something else in there. And as soon as we saw the push, we all went, well, he's pushed him into him, he's going to give the goal.
Yeah.
And when he didn't, we were all flabbergasted. But let me go back to a point our colleague Peter Walton made, and Peter's not here, and I'm not having a go at Peter, but we had a discussion with Peter about VAR and looking at monitors 6 months ago. And Peter, and I thought jokingly at the time, said, well, we have to get used to looking at monitors as a referee and looking at replays. And I thought, what the hell is he talking about here? But as it turns out, they are so inept at their job, they are so thick when it comes to understanding what is and isn't a foul, that Peter was right.
Yeah.
These Premier League referees, who, by the way, were nowhere to be seen at the 2018 World Cup because they weren't good enough, cannot even look at a replay and give a sensible, correct decision. That's a worry in the so-called richest league in the world.
Go on, Frank.
I just want to add about that. Don't worry, it's not only in England. Just want to reassure, that's incredible that in France they are worse than that. So we saw worse than that. So it's a big problem. I think referees have to learn how to understand football and the tricks of the players.
Okay, away from officials, away from VAR, let's talk about the significance of this result, starting with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Because, as you mentioned, Kepa dropped again. Batshuayi starting when he just looked completely out of form. Giroud at least gave you a little something when he came off the bench.
Well,
what's gone wrong with Chelsea?
Let's start with the goalkeeper. It's crystal clear that Frank Lampard has a beef with Kepa. I understand he wants rid of him. He doesn't like him. I'm not as a person. He doesn't fancy him as a goalkeeper. He doesn't think his attitude's good enough, and he wants him out. The Chelsea board are worried that they've shelled out a fortune on this guy, and hence they're going to take a massive hit if they do that. So there's a fight going on. Literally speaking, there's a fight going on between Lampard and the board at the moment. So when you do that, Dan, because clearly it's so tight there, you're going to have to play your best players because you might not finish in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
It's so muddy. So when you make that fight with the board, as it seems, you've got to be winning. Because when you're not winning games, you're putting yourself under more pressure, and that's an interesting one. We all thought Kepa was going to come back in today. He didn't. I'm not saying that's why they lost, but he's got a clear fight on with the board at Chelsea. They don't want to take the financial loss, and he's standing his ground. That's fine when you're winning games regular. They're not at the moment.
Him and I, I'm talking about Craig, we had an argument about whether Batshuayi plays or Giroud plays.
It was
right?
quite a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my argument was, well, they're trying to get Giroud out the door. Batshuayi has scored a goal in the last 2 games, and because he's staying, he's going to start him first. Craig said to me, that is mental. If you want to get in the top 4, you play your best players.
Yeah.
Now, I argued about that, and I still will argue about it. But what you cannot argue about is when you are putting somebody like Caballero in ahead of Kepa. The difference between Batshuayi and Giroud is minimal, in my opinion. But the difference between Caballero and Kepa is it's a cavern, and you saw it on the first goal. So he's 100% out of order. Try to be stubborn and not play the best keeper.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.